girls, welcome back to Kids Club, another week of board games. So this week I'm so excited because we are going to be talking about the game Sorry and how it connects with our Bible story this week with Jesus and his disciple Peter. So we're talking about how Peter denies Jesus. But first, I'm going to explain the game for this week. So this week, we're talking about the game Sorry, and one of you guys is going to win this board game. I'm so excited. And so how this game works is you pull a card from the deck, and it says on the card how many spaces you're gonna move around the board. And so your goal is to get all the way around the board. And if you run into someone, so say you're blue, so this little guy, he's blue, and his friend here is yellow. So say he runs into the yellow player actually has to go all the way back to the beginning. And hence, that's why you say sorry, because they have to restart all the way from the beginning again. And so whoever makes it all the way around first wins. But constantly throughout this game, you are saying sorry because you're running into your friends, you're running into people and making them start all over again. So today, I want to talk to you guys about Peter, one of Jesus' disciples. Now, at the beginning of Jesus' ministry, he gathered and called all of his disciples to come work with him. And he needed this community. He needed his friends to help him to do his ministry and to reach the world with the gospel. And so one of those disciples, his name was Peter. And he worked with Jesus for quite a while before Jesus actually left the earth and went back to heaven. There's a few circumstances that happen before Jesus actually leaves, and one of them is actually right before, the night before Jesus went to die on the cross. Peter did something that he probably shouldn't have. He made a big mistake. But today we're talking about how God gives second chances. So the Bible story we're focusing on today is from Luke chapter 22. I'm going to read you guys the verse that we're talking about right now. So it's the Last Supper, Luke chapter 22, verses 31 to 34.
Jesus predicts Peter's denial. Simon, Simon, Satan has asked to sift each of you like wheat. But I have pleaded for you in prayer, Simon, that your faith should not fail. So when you have repented and turned to me again, strengthen your brothers. Peter said, Lord, I am ready to go to prison with you, even to die with you. But Jesus said, Peter, let me tell you something. Before the rooster crows tomorrow morning, you will deny me 3 times that you even know me.
And so you see a little glimpse in the story that Peter is actually, he said to Jesus, Lord, I am ready to die for you. I am ready to give up my life. I'm ready to do anything for you. But Jesus actually said to him, point blank, no, you're going to actually deny me 3 times before the rooster crows in the morning. And so that was super shocking to Peter because in his mind, he was super dedicated, super willing. But Jesus actually knew he was going to make a mistake. Because you see, earlier in this story, Peter actually agrees with some of the chief priests and teachers that he would get money if he denied Jesus. And then it was later that night that Peter said, no, I'm going to give up my life for you. But then later, he still denied Jesus.
The festival of unleavened bread, which is also called Passover, was approaching. The leading priests and teachers of religious law were plotting how to kill Jesus, but they were afraid of the people's reaction. Then Satan entered into Judas Iscariot, who was one of the 12 disciples, and he went to the leading priests and captains of the temple guard to discuss the best way to betray Jesus to them. They were delighted, and they promised to give him money. So he agreed and began looking for an opportunity to betray Jesus so they could arrest him when the crowds weren't around.
So it shows that all of us, we all have the choice to make. We all have either the right choice or the wrong choice to make. And it's up to us what choice we decide to make. But in this story, Peter decided to make the wrong choice for his own selfish gain. Peter decided, actually, this money, in his mind, it seems more important to me right now than befriending Jesus. Or maybe in his mind, we don't really know what he was thinking. Maybe he was like, oh, I'm going to deny Jesus, but he's still going to love me at the end of the day. He's still going to be my friend. It's okay if I get this, I get this 10 or $20. But that's not the case. You see, because Jesus, he doesn't want us to have these motives. When he was agreeing to take that money to deny Jesus, he wasn't guarding his heart. He wasn't guarding his mind. He wasn't making sure that he wasn't protecting himself from making a mistake. And because he wasn't protecting his heart and mind, it caused him to stumble. And that can happen sometimes to us. We can fall and stumble when we don't protect ourselves, when we don't read our word, when we don't pray. These things actually come easier to us when we're not protecting our minds. And that's exactly what happened to Peter. He wasn't focusing on what was true and what was right. He was focusing on his own selfish desires. When you guys fall and stumble, Jesus will always be there at the end of the day to forgive you and to help you through whatever you're going through. Jesus always gives us second chances. Just like how in the game Sorry, when you come across your friend and you have to kick them all the way back to the beginning and say sorry, like they get a chance to restart, you get a chance to restart. And that's just kind of similar to life. We always get a second chance with Jesus. Guys, I want to tell you something. There's been many times in my own life that I've had to say sorry. I've had to say sorry to my parents. I've had to say sorry to my friends. I've made mistakes. I've made mistakes, and my friends and my family, they've had to give me a second and third chances. And most of all, I've had to say sorry to God sometimes. And something that the Bible actually teaches us is that there's a story in the Bible where Jesus comes across this lady who made mistakes in her life. And at the end of that day, Jesus tells her, go and sin no more. Like, Jesus doesn't want us to continue to sin. He wants us to walk in freedom. He wants us to walk in his grace and his love. And just think of it this way. Peter was one of Jesus' disciples for many years. And even at the end, he still made a mistake. He still had to ask Jesus for forgiveness. And sometimes when you could be friends with someone for a super, super long amount of time and grow really close with them, but you still might end up making mistakes, but that doesn't mean you can't give them a second chance and forgive them for what they had done, just like Jesus did with Peter. And Jesus actually knew it was coming too, which is the crazy part. I'm going to tell you guys a story that I think I've told on Sunday mornings before, but for those of you that weren't there, I will tell you now. So when I was little, I think I was about I don't even know, maybe like 6 or 7 or 8 years old, and I went over for a play date with my mom. My mom and me, we went over to her friend's house, and she had a little girl my age too, and we hung out, and I really liked her handkerchief. So she had one of those like bandana handkerchief things that it was pink. It was so cool in my mind. It was one of those things you see on TV and you want it for yourself and you want to have it in real life because you've seen it on the television and it's just so cool. And so I actually, by the end of that play date, I remember this so vividly in my mind just because it stuck with me. I stole her handkerchief and I took it home with me. And I think it was for a whole week. I took it to school. I hid it in my shirt. I walked with it to school and I walked home with it. And when I would get home right away, I would put it up in my drawer. Where else did I take it? I think I took it to the grocery store before. I stuck it in my socks. Like I couldn't even wear the handkerchief because I was trying to hide it the whole time. And I remember I put it under my pillow when I was watching TV. I actually remember these specific scenarios. And then one day, my mom, she went up to my room. I wasn't in my room. I think I was downstairs or something. And she found it in my drawer, in my closet. And then she came down the stairs and she confronted me about it. And she said, Chantel, where did you get this from? Like, this isn't yours. And I just started bawling. I was crying because I was so embarrassed, and I was so I was just embarrassed that my mom had found me out. She found out that I had stole this handkerchief, and it was just so embarrassing, and I didn't like getting in trouble. I mean, who likes getting in trouble? And it was just really embarrassing moment for me. And my mom was like, we are going to return this and you can't keep it. It's not yours. And you shouldn't have even stolen it in the first place. And so we actually ended up going back to that person's house. I don't think I told it in this much detail on Sunday morning when I told you guys the story, but we went back to her house. And my mom was like, you're gonna say sorry and you're gonna return the handkerchief to this girl. And so that's what happened. And I took it back, and I think I was still like crying in that moment because I was just so embarrassed. And I gave it back to her, and I said sorry. And you know what she said? It's okay. Like, I'm sure she was mad. She was maybe frustrated, but at the end of the day, she still forgave me. My mom still forgave me because technically I lied to her too. She didn't know that I had stole this handkerchief. And so that's what happens. Like, in real life, like, you will make these mistakes, but as long as you learn from them, you grow from them, you ask God for forgiveness, and you sin no more, because that's what Jesus instructs us to do. So I'm going to do a drum roll, and I'm going to announce who won this week's board game of Sorry, okay? Are you guys ready? I'm ready. Okay. Congratulations on winning Sorry this week. You can pick it up at Kids Church this week if we see you then. If not, I will get back to you guys on how you can pick up your board game. I'm so happy that you guys joined today's video, and we will see you next week.